deal for the whole United Kingdom, and we're already achieved great things under the deal, and we'll achieve even more as we work together.
A lot of it is Scotland. I mean, I do know that, but I mean, we're dealing with the UK. But a lot of it comes to Scotland, and you know, I was very particular. This is a part of the world I want to see thrive. It's going to thrive.
Mr. President, back to Gaza. You talk about Hamas stealing food and stealing aid. What responsibility does Israel have for limiting aid to the region? And if I could ask a follow-up to the Prime Minister, what pressure can be put on Israel? Is that something that you and the United States could work on together?
Israel has a lot of responsibility. They're hampered by the fact that you still have 20 hostages or so. And the people of Israel are very concerned about the 20 hostages. It's very interesting. You could say they could be more concerned about retribution than the 20 hostages, but they really want the 20 hostages to survive and live to make it. You know, many of the hostages came to my office in the Oval Office, and I was amazed by, I would ask them the question, was there any sign of love? Was there any sign of, when you were a hostage and you have all of these people from Hamas around you, sometimes 100, sometimes 10, sometimes 2, but you're a hostage and you're being stored in a pipe. It's not even really, you know, a cave, or it's a pipe, a little pipe. And some said they didn't think they were going to make it because they were losing air. There wasn't enough air, and they'd open up the pipe just in time, but they didn't do it on purpose. They just happened to open it. They got lucky. But I said, did they ever wink at you and say, like, don't worry, you're going to be okay? Did they ever give you some extra food, even if it was a piece of bread? Did they ever give you anything during that time? And some were there for 400 or 500 days now, right? It's a long time, a year and a half, more than that. And not one person said there was any love from anybody. You know, in other words, I mean, you have hundreds of...
A society built around a supremacist ideology.
Well, also, like,
does not believe that their barbaric, rapist, monstrous captors were nice to them.
Also,
would they even admit if they were?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if anybody's been reading the news lately, but bread has been a little bit hard to come by.
Also, there are some captives that have literally come out and contradicted the statements that the Israeli state was making about their conditions.
Yeah, which is
and then they get fucking ruthlessly bullied.
And it was, like, there's no, there's one, you can't assume that people are able to speak freely and critically of the Israeli government as, like, former hostages, family. I mean, but, like, there was an earlier time when the conditions were different and the situation in Gaza was
Remember Lifshitz? I think Lifshitz, right? Like the older lady, the first one that they released on moral grounds.
Yeah, and she talks about...
She immediately came out of the hospital and was like, no, they were actually great. They were nice.
And that's not to say that, like, obviously every single, like, hostage was thus treated like they're at the fucking Ritz, but there is, like, like, it's, like, I mean, it's just clear it's clear the provenance of the story and why it's being shared.
It's also clear that they have been kept in significantly better conditions in spite of the overall conditions in Gaza than any number of different prisoners that are released from Israeli prisons.
I mean, look, I'll say this. Unlike tens of thousands of people, you know, and probably more in Gaza, they're alive. Glib as that may sound, it's true.
Yeah. The famous Hamas Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, that's what it is.
The people. And you see it in the movies where somebody's a prisoner and somebody's helping. You even see it with Germany, where people would be let into a house and live in an attic in secret. You know, you'd see
Brother, that was not Germany.
I said, did you see
that
anything
was not
like
Germany. That was not Germany, pal. Different country.
Also, I get that he's trying to say that, like, people who would be aligned with the Nazi government would, you know, still somehow try and shelter Jews.
Listen, the pianist, he's walking in Warsaw. He's walking in Warsaw. He finds this beautiful pianist. He recognizes, he says, oh my God, you're a pianist. He gives him bread.
What's frustrating about this is that the fucking apt comparison here would be Israel being compared, and Israeli society being compared to, like, the broader German society. Okay, so in that argument, You can't compare, like you. Do people actually still go, yeah, Hamas is just like the Nazis instead of fucking Israel? Like, who would be the Nazis in this situation?
Among people like Trump and the right wing, like not the liberals, but like among people who are on the political right, yes, it is an article of faith that like Islamist groups like Hamas and the societies organized around them, which is, you know, I'm not articulating what I think, I'm describing their views here. Like they believe that fundamentally that they like are that they have like a death cult ideology that resembles something like Nazism. That's a, you know, like that's a neocon style, or you know, a fairly radical neocon style articulation of it. That also just happens to be like, you know, like where the id of fucking most of the country is as well. And somebody like Trump surely fucking embodies that.
It's just funny to be like, oh, you can't compare anything to the Nazis except for what, a group of people that are closely resembling the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, like Jewish partisans. Like those are the only guys you can compare to the fucking Nazis, not the fucking Nazi state with a Nazi ideology doing Nazi shit. It's fucking so stupid.
I mean, and look, like there's a reason that like there's a reason beyond that Jews are involved in this conflict that we reach to like Nazi comparisons. It's because like it's the foundational like moral tragedy of the post World War II, like, you know, Western consciousness, which, you know, it's like you, when you imagine something bad, that's what we got. That's what's like hanging around in the old brain is like the clay that your mind is working with. And yeah, I don't know. I can't really, it's pretty, to me, the thing that's just like crazy is to say this, like talk about like they didn't give him a scrap of bread when like the direct crisis that you are responding to is like about a famine.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's just such a like that the wires aren't properly connecting there, or whatever the fuck is like good Lord, you people are cynical.
Did they wink at you? Did they say, don't worry, you're going to be okay? I ask that question all the time. I've never received one answer that said, yeah, they really wanted to help. No, the hatred is just incredible.
Yeah. An access to food issue.
Yeah,
what more can Israel do? As well.
Well, I think Israel can do a lot. I will say that Iran, I think, interjected themselves in this last negotiation. Can you imagine the beating they took? We wiped out their nuclear possibilities. They can start again. If they do, we'll wipe it out faster than you can wave your finger at it. We'll have to do that. We will do that gladly, openly and gladly. They've been saying, Iran's been sending out bad signals, I'll tell you. For a country that just got wiped out, they've been sending very bad signals, very nasty signals. And they shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. They were talking about things that they shouldn't be talking about. They were interviewed on a recent show, and the foreign minister saying things that he shouldn't be talking about, shouldn't be saying. And I think they got involved in this negotiation, telling Hamas and giving Hamas signals and orders, and that's not good. That's not good.
I would say, look, we need to get the hostages out. They've been held for a very, very long time, and we must always start from there.
Yeah, we must always start from there.
Always start from there. This famine is worse than anything we've had in fucking decades. We've always got to start with the fucking hostages.
The British public and myself, seeing those images of starving children in particular, are revolting.
It's not just children who are starving, by the way, you stupid freak.
Yeah, I mean, it's adults too, but at least they're acknowledging the starvation.
God. He really is just so contemptible.
He is awful. He is an awful monster. Oh my fucking God. I mean, we knew he was going to be a giant piece of shit, but god damn, dude, he has somehow outdone my expectations.
I mean, I think that there's just like evidently some, like the U.S. has its own kind of rot, you know, like tearing through the country from within, and among its governing elite especially. The United Kingdom has its own rot. And in some ways it's worse, in some ways it's not as bad as ours, but it is there, and like Keir Starmer is a particularly depressing expression of it. good Lord, like it's enraging and so deflating all at once.
Yeah.
Public at what they're seeing, and they know, and we know, that humanitarian aid needs to get in at speed, at volume. Yes, some could be airdropped, and we're working with others, with the US.
All right, yeah, he's
with
willing to
Jordan,
entertain bullshit
on
theater.
that, but the trucks need to get in, because that's the only way you can get the volume in. And we do thank the President for the work he's done to try to get to a ceasefire, which we desperately need, but also to put aid in to the region. There needs to be much more of that. We need to galvanise other countries in support of getting that aid in. And yes, that does involve putting pressure on Israel, because this is a humanitarian catastrophe now. We also need to look beyond that situation to what then happens in the event of a ceasefire, which is desperately needed. And that's why I'm really pleased that we're having a discussion about what a peace plan would look like after that, the component parts of that. And we have to be really clear at this point that Hamas can play absolutely no part in any future governance in Palestine, and and in Gaza. And it's really important that we're clear about what triggered this, who took the hostages, and calling out Hamas for what they are, which is a terrorist organisation. But
yeah, Corbyn's party got signups, 500,000 signups in 3 days, dude. Like, I feel like they're cooking.
I mean, people want an alternative.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those situations where like there have been no good options for so long, and people have been pretty much clamoring for this kind of political option since Starmer officially took power.
I've been also this is like, that's UK domestic politics, but going back to Israel, I listened to the NPR Up First assessment this morning, and they're still doing like Holocaust denial style Nazi propaganda over there, straight up. It's actually alarming. Okay? It is actually fucking alarming how insane it is. They had, they talked about starvation. They talked about starvation, and then instantly they get like an Israeli soldier to say, this is Hamas propaganda. It is not real famine. And then like it's crazy. They just straight up only listen to Israeli resources, Israeli envoys, Israeli soldiers.
And by the way, like there's more like restriction coming to the BBC. I mean, if Reform UK wins as well, it's going to get even worse, because the allegation remains, like within British politics, within Parliament, the perception such that it is now the reality for them is that the BBC is still excessively sympathetic to Hamas. That's their attitude. So it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah. NPR, they said the reporters saw the starvation with their own eyes. Yeah. And then what did they do? In the report, it starts off with saying, our reporters have seen the starvation with their own two eyes. And then the next 5 minutes, the remainder after that statement is going to Israeli figures and having Israeli figures say it's actually a lie. It's a complete fabrication. No, it wasn't a bit from one Israeli guy. It was two. They had Elon Levy.
They had Elon Levy?
They had Elon Levy's back. Israel rehired him.
That's...
Yeah, they had Elon Levy and a fucking soldier.
Elon Levy, I mean, that's like a...
To contradict the assessment of their own reporters without ever actually undermining. Like, the afterthought that they're supposed to leave you with is, well, our reporters saw this with their own two eyes, but you shouldn't believe them. You should believe Elon Levy and the fucking Israeli soldier. That's what they end up with on that piece, talking about the starvation in Gaza. It is crazy. It is disgusting. it's not neutrality. It's just lying at the behest of a foreign state that is conducting